Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video it gives me great pleasure to take a look at the Thermaltake Ceres 500 ARGB Snow. This is it. Let's take it apart and see what it's all about. Keep watching to find out more. Okay, so in today's video we're taking a look at the Thermaltake Ceres 500 Snow ARGB. Now this is actually a step in a slightly different direction now for Thermaltake. They've been doing cases obviously for many years, and we've seen quite a few of them over the past few years. This is something a little bit different, a little bit new. They are seeming to head in a kind of more airflow orientated way. We did have a few looks at that a little bit earlier on with some of their cube cases with that big ventilated front, but this is actually one of the first cases I've seen from Thermaltake which has got such a massive amount of airflow going on inside it. They have actually told us that this has somewhere in the region of about 60% of the total surface area which is actually ventilation, which I think is absolutely brilliant and certainly is a step in the right direction and moving away from those kind of solid panels which we're so used to seeing on a lot of modern cases these days. So today we're going to go through and do a bit of a teardown, go through it, take it all apart, go through the pros and cons. There will be additional parts to this video, so this is going to be basically the unboxing and overview. There will be a separate video which is going to be a build video in which we will be taking our streaming PC, which is the one which normally sits behind us, and all of that is going into this. This is going to be our new daily driver for the streaming PC. And also, of course, because we're going to be using it on a daily basis, we'll also be doing additional updates. So if there's any comments or questions you've got regarding this case, in terms of fitment, configurations, all those kinds of things, then please do reach out to us in the comments section. And obviously by the time you're watching this video, there's a strong chance this is going to be in use for a couple of days already. So anyway, enough waffling, let's get on and take a look at it. So as I said, lots and lots of ventilation. As you can see, this front panel is effectively all mesh, and not only that, it's a nice big mesh as well to let lots of air through. There is actually a nylon mesh behind that as well, so if you're looking at this and thinking, wow, that's going to suck in an absolute ton of dust, don't worry, there's a really nice mesh filter behind there as well, which is removable and also magnetic for ease of use. On the side panels we've also got extra ventilation around the power supply areas. The top section is completely the same as this section. Yeah, there's just loads of filtration here. They have basically put a filter wherever there's air coming in, there's filtration. The only place they've missed that really is the PCI Express blanking plates, which is going to be a pretty hard one to do anyway. Something else which they've done, which is something a little bit new from Thermaltake, is the fact that they've got one of these. So this is the LCD panel kit. So this can be used as an additional extra, and this replaces the panel just down here. So you can undo that, take it out and replace it with an LCD panel. This is going to give you option to have things like your CPU speeds, temperatures, heck, even your local weather, that kind of stuff, or you can put on there your own GIFs, JPEGs, all that kind of stuff to customize it exactly how you want it to. So this is actually very cool. This is an optional extra, like I said. You're going to be looking at somewhere in the region of about £100 for this, and it is available in both the Snow Edition colour, which is the white, and also the black edition, so do look out for that in the links below. So let's take a look at the case now and see what is going on. So as I said, this front section, you can fit in here 3 140mm fans or 3 120mm fans should you wish to. Something again which Thermaltake have done, which is a little bit of a step away from what they normally do, is they have included fans straight out of the box. So you do get 4 included CT140 ARGB fans, obviously depending which one you go for. If you go for the white one, you're going to get white fans. If you go for the black one, you can get black fans. There is also potentially an option for non-RGB versions, and also they do include in the actual packaging, you can get additional fans as well. So the CT140 series will be sold as a standalone fan. They're based loosely around the turbo fans from Thermaltake, but with a nice big splash of addressable RGB built in as well, and available 120s, 140s, etc. There are going to be those links there, so you can possibly scan those on your screen if you want to. If not, again, I'll put some links in the video description. Currently, as the day of recording, those links aren't yet live. As you expect, this is a kind of pre-production version. So yeah, when those are live, you can click on them and find out the latest pricing. But it's really good that you can actually get regular fans. These are just normal PWM, 3-pin, 5-volt addressable RGB. We don't have any crazy hubs, any skullduggery going on. It's literally just a normal, 100% compatible PWM signal straight into a fan, which is absolutely awesome. Which is actually another thing which they've done, which kind of goes against what they normally do. Thermaltake are very commonly using their own kind of custom built hubs, custom cabling, all that kind of stuff. So this is really kind of, for them, a big shift in momentum. So they've gone into a more airflow focused and also a more compatible focused, especially with those types of connections on the fan, which are basically universal across the PC industry. Now, in order to access the fans, this is extremely easy. So looking at the front panel, like I said, you've got this mesh section, you've got your I/O on the side, which we'll take a quick look at now. So you've got a power button there, you've got USB 3.0, normal Type A headers. You've also got a USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type C port as well for your super fast transfers. And also you've got a separate headphone and mic jack, which is an absolute perfect situation. Not a big fan of combo jacks, so that for me works absolutely great. And it's actually in a really convenient place. It's almost like they've made this case with me in mind for exactly where it's going to go behind me. So when I do want to plug things in, when I'm doing USB bars, videos, that sort of thing, then I can just plug those in there, very easy to access. Some people may not like it there. Personally, for me, I think it works really well. And obviously, being that this is the kind of the show side, it makes sense to have it there as well. Anyway, to remove this section, pretty easy to do. There's some little sections here, and all you do is just apply a little bit of pressure, and that bit unclips. There is a section there and there which this latches onto, and then this does reveal these massive 140mm fans, which are absolutely great. They have got a pretty decent RPM range as well, so we're looking at 500 to 1500 RPM. At anywhere up to around about 800 to 900 RPM, they are effectively silent. You guys know what I'm like with my fans. Any kind of ticking or noises, even the noise of airflow, can destroy a recording on our videos. So I am very, very fussy about fans, but these seem to be absolutely brilliant. Again, because we're going to be using this in our stream PC, we'll keep you updated how that goes. Potentially, if you wanted to, obviously, if you want to, you can just swap these out. Maybe put in some of the Thermaltake swap fans if you wanted to. That is certainly an option, or just go with another brand if you want to. But the fact that they're included as part of the price, I think is excellent. They've all got hydro bearings, and again, they're all 3-pin 5-volt addressable RGB and 4-pin PWM. And both of those connections are actually pass-throughs as well, so you can daisy chain them up. So even though you've got 4 fans here, it basically terminates into one single PWM connector and one single addressable RGB connection to plug into your motherboard, which is absolutely great. Also, the fans, as you'd expect from Thermaltake, being pretty decent quality. You've got rubber grommets front and back all around, and yeah, it's just a really nice deal. Like I said, available in black or white. This whole system can come out, so if you want to take this out, put a radiator in for ease of use. There are 4 screws, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Undo that. This whole section can be lifted out, so if you want to add in your fans, or maybe you just want to get a bit more room inside for when you're working on your PC, you can definitely do that. There's some B-roll, you can probably see of that already. This section here, which is in this kind of gunmetal finish, is all solid metal. So this is a kind of accent color against the rest of it, and actually strengthens up the PC. It is a solid beast anyway. It is actually supporting up to eATX motherboards, so although most people probably will be going with ATX, you can fit in here up to a 12 by 13 inch motherboard, which is that kind of loose eATX standard. Something else they've done really nicely here is the way they've cable managed all the cables for the front I/O around the top here and clipped in. That is a reoccurring theme across this entire case. All the cable management has been really, really well thought out, which we'll check out a little bit later. But let's look at the front panel again. So the front panel is held in place with those metal catches, and also in here you've got a removable dust filter, which is also magnetic, so nice and easy to clean. If you want the ultimate in airflow, then you could, if you want to, just leave that bit out, put this straight back on, and you'll get obviously unrestricted airflow. But if you want to keep the dust at bay, then you can use this. It is magnetic as well, and just snaps into place with the magnets, and they're nice and strong. So even when you put this front panel back on, which latches on at the front first, and you press into place, the magnetic filter stays in place. It does pop out very briefly and then magnetizes itself back in. So that's something they've done. They've got exactly the right amount of kind of pressure on those magnets to hold it all in place, which is excellent. So that is the front panel. Let's spin it around and take a closer look at the sides. So more cool things on the side, quite literally. So we've got ventilation down here. So this is where your power supply is going to go. They've actually made it so this section is removable on its own. I'm not entirely sure why, but certainly if you want to get in and take a look at your PC or your power supply for some reason, maybe you want to actually connect up a modular cable, then you can definitely do that. So just 2 screws to undo on there. Then you can pull this section back, and this will reveal where your power supply goes, all of which is really nicely done. There's massive rubber mounts, etc. for power supplies. Power supplies up to 220mm in length. There is a removable drive tray in there, so if you want to, you can actually remove that as well, just to give you a little bit more room down there, should you need to. I've put in here one of Thermaltake's GF3 1000 watt power supplies, and it fits in there absolutely fine, and also a little bit of room to spare, so that is excellent. Something which some people won't like, and I can see this being a thing, is the latch for the side window. So there is a big twist there, so you twist it and you can open that, and that is a fully articulated window, so you can rotate that back out of the way when you're doing your builds, or if you want to, you can simply lift it off and remove it in its entirety. The glass has no tint to it whatsoever, so it is a completely transparent glass. I think that's going to be the same for the black version as well. I'm not entirely sure, I haven't quite seen that in the flesh yet. But definitely, yeah, 3mm tempered glass, so nice and thick. I like the way they've actually done the rails, so when you put the glass back on, you can line it back up, do the top pin first, and then they've offset them so the bottom one fits in, so it's nice and easy to do. This, I feel, is a little bit clunky. I think it might have been better with magnets. Let me know what you think in the comment section, but it certainly serves a purpose, and for me, I do like to have these windows that you can just open like this. Nice, easy access, so if you want to do some quick tampering, tweaking, or just give a bit of routine maintenance, a little bit of dusting, very easy to access. So now we can take a closer look at what is going on inside. So as it comes out of the box, we do get this section here. So this is actually a GPU mounting kit, or supporting kit, I should say rather. So this is actually pretty cool what they've done here. So this goes in somewhere like that, wherever your graphics card may be. So if you've got a little bit of GPU sag, then you can use this to support it. You've probably seen some B-roll of that where you can see a little bit better. It's a very simple design, but it works very well. So there's the bracket, goes on there, thumb screw, so you can adjust the height, etc. But what I think is actually very clever, and I'm not sure whether this is intentional or whether it's just happened by accident, is the fact that the screw holes at the bottom, all of the mesh on the bottom is exactly the right size for the screws. So you can actually put it in exactly the right position. So it's not like you're locked in. A lot of cases these days, if they've got a support like this, there's kind of dedicated mounts where you've got to use it, or it's on this back channel and you've got to slide it up in a certain specific place. Whereas with this, if you've got a tiny graphics card, you can put it up here. If you've got a huge one, you can put it up there. Now, when it comes to graphics card compatibility, clearly this is quite a big boy case. And in terms of dimensions, we're looking at 525mm in length by 245mm in width and 508mm in height. So it's actually a pretty chunky case, although it's not as big as other cases which will support eATX, and also a 420 radiator up front or a 360 radiator in the top. Now when it comes to radiators, actually I should clarify that, you can do two 360s, so dual 360s at the same time, so one in the top, one in the side there, or the front. If you're going with a 420, then you are going to be limited to 280 in the top, so do bear that in mind. If you're thinking like 420 and 360, that unfortunately doesn't quite work. But yeah, two 360s or 420 to 280 is going to be absolutely fine. So on the bottom, like we said, all of this is mesh and nice and open, so a little bit of airflow coming from that bottom fan is actually going to go through there and permeate into this area, keeping possibly your power supply, your hard drives cool, and also some of it coming back up into the chassis to cool down your GPU. Again, another cool part, like I said, with the removable section here, so there's two screws here. So all we need to do is undo those very quickly, and that is it. Two screws, lift like this, and then you can put in your LCD panel, which yeah, is absolutely great. Obviously then you can put your wiring behind. Another reason that you can actually do that, and makes it nice and easy, is when it comes to mounting drives in this basement section, if for some reason your case is in a place and you don't want to access the back of it, then you can actually insert drives from the front as well as the back. This is actually probably a really good time to take a look at the LCD panel kit. So this is the replacement kit from Thermaltake. This, you're going to be looking in somewhere in the region of about £100, which for a lot of people is probably going to be a bit too much. Yeah, I guess in terms of tooling, etc., yeah, the jury's out on that one at the moment, but it does look amazing. So all it uses is a USB or micro USB connection on the side there, plug it into a USB header on your motherboard. There is an included cable which has two of those micro USBs on, which is actually very common with a lot of Thermaltake kits, such as if you're using the Tough fans or you're using the SWAF fans, the hub that comes with them does use the same sort of cabling. So if you're maybe doing a Thermaltake theme build, then it makes it easy. You can use just one USB header. So that plugs in on the side. And then when it's all plugged in, literally just pop that on there, put your screws back in, and you'll have all your readings on there. So again, CPU temperatures, GPU temperatures, you can have it cycle through various things, CPU load, yeah, you name it, you can pretty much do it. You can make up your own GIFs as well, or you can just put a JPEG on there. You can have things like a clock. What else was there? There was the weather. That was a pretty cool one. So there's one which shows the weather, time, date, etc., and kind of is animated. Clearly that, as it goes on, will be developed. It's something which Thermaltake are doing more and more. There is actually their own dedicated site. I'll link that in the description below, and you can basically look through all the available GIFs and JPEGs and other animations which are available currently, which work with this and other parts of the TT Plus design system. Okay, so moving on. So you can see now pretty much you can get full access in there. I'll leave those out for now because we are doing somewhat of a teardown. Also included, there is this vertical GPU mounting bracket, which is included. And this gives you options for mounting GPUs in various ways, depending on which cable you're using. There is a Thermaltake PCI Express Gen 4 cable, which is available, which you can connect up to this. I don't have one of those on hand, unfortunately, so I won't be showing you that. But effectively, you can just undo that, unclip it. There's a nice sturdy bracket there. A little bit of adjustment, so you can move it forward and backwards, etc. And again, because they've got that really cool design there, literally you can take a thumb screw and just pick yourself a hole, and it effectively will go through pretty much all of them and just lock themselves in. So yeah, it's pretty good, works very well. They're not going to have any issues there at all. And again, lots of flexibility depending where you want to put things. So put that back in. There's 3 big pass-throughs at the back as well. So when it comes to passing through your HD audio, your USB 3s, front panel connections, all that kind of stuff, those are nice big holes there. I have found as well, when you've got the power supply installed, even if it's a chunky one, it doesn't cover up the holes. So there's a nice big gap there, so you can still pass through HD audio connectors from those sections in the back, which is awesome. All of the motherboard standoffs are installed, ready to go straight away. So all 9 are in there for the standard ATX layout. The amount of times we see people on our Discord where they've bought a new case, done a build, they've turned it on and it's either given magic smoke or not turned on at all because it's shorted out, you'd be amazed how many times that happens. But so I'm very pleased to see that all the standoffs are in the right places to begin with for the majority of boards which are going to go in there. So no problems whatsoever there. You've got some rubber grommets for passing cables through. You've got the first of one of the hard drive mounting sections here. So this panel here can take a single 3.5-inch drive or 2.5-inch kind of SSDs or hard drives from older laptops, that sort of stuff, should you want to. So you can mount that there. Graphics card wise, I think it's 425mm, the longest, and 395 if you've got a radiator installed. So if you're looking at a RTX 4090 and you're thinking, I need a case that was going to fit it, then yeah, this is going to be absolutely fine. You can almost get a 4-fan card in here. It's huge, it really is. And there isn't really anything to obstruct it, which is awesome. Moving along the front, there's a little bit of a cutout there for radiator support, should you want to. Pass-throughs along the top, because the motherboard ends kind of here, you've still got a massive thing here. So if you are putting a radiator in your fans, you can pass your cables through there. Even someone as cack-handed as myself is going to have no problems whatsoever getting an EPS connector in there. I could probably get the EPS connector and basically most of my hand through there at the same time. So that is fantastic. I do like to see that. I don't like battling with those little tiny cutouts for EPS connectors in the top corner. They are horrendous. But I think other than that, that is pretty much it. Actually, something else which is very cool, which I did notice earlier, is where they've got the fans. Now, Fantex, you could learn a lot here. Where they've got the cutouts for the fans there, where they basically meet up for passing your cables through, you can pass them through. There's like 3 individual holes there. So fan management and fan wiring is going to be an absolute piece of cake in there. So yeah, no problems at all. Like I said, you've got 3 140mm fans up front. You've got 1 in the back as well, all ready to go. Pre-installed, all that kind of stuff. Moving around, I think that is pretty much all we can look at up there. So let's look at the back. So on the back is where it gets actually quite interesting. So if you want to do a vertical mount, a lot of cases if you're doing a vertical GPU mount, there's kind of an extra couple of slots here and it's always a little bit too close to the glass and it's just not a very easy thing to do, or potentially even damaging to performance because it's going to suffocate against the glass. So what Thermaltake have done here is they've got their own patented design for this PCI Express section on the back. So you can undo these 2 screws and that will remove this plate here, which kind of holds it all in place. And then you've got an additional 4 screws, so 1 there, 1 there, 1 there, 1 there, and you can undo all 4 of those. This section will pull out and then you can rotate it 90 degrees or that way 90 degrees, so these sections will be at the top. We've done B-roll of that, so I won't bother showing you that quite now. But yeah, it is a very good design, works very well. Previously on some of the Thermaltake cases, I think it was the P3, possibly even one of the larger ones, I did find that there's a few too many extra bits and bobs that you had to undo to do that. Like inside there was kind of like a bit of a guesswork thing going on. Which screws do I undo? It's all falling apart, what's going on? So they've simplified it massively. So 4 screws, undo it, twist it round, put the 4 screws back in, job done. Very, very simple indeed. Moving down to the bottom, so we've got a removable power supply shroud or bracket. So you undo the 4 screws, pull that out, attach that to the back of your power supply, slot it all back in. I actually went the other way altogether because I'm, well, lazy, and put the power supply in from the side. You can get a power supply in from the side as well, so if you don't fancy using the bracket, then you can place it in from the side and do it the 4 screws as you would normally, so that's absolutely fine. 140mm fan included there. You can put 120s in if you want to. I'm not sure really why you want to, but certainly you can do. And also more perforations at the top there. So because this is going to be predominantly a positive airflow setup, it's basically going to be pushing out air in kind of all the holes possible, which is yeah, basically what you want to do is keep your chassis nice and cool. Moving towards the top, so the top section is actually pretty cool also. So you've got some captive screws here, which I'm not bothered either way, but I guess for some people captive screws do work out. So you undo those 2, push it back, locks out of place. And then you get this top section, which again is kind of almost identical, pretty much is identical to the front panel, just a little bit longer. So same sort of deal. And you do have the removable magnetic filter again, same sort of deal. Nice mesh there, slot that back in the bottom, and magnets hold it all in place, and seems to do a pretty good job of it. This section here is predominantly plastic, although the grill section is metal. But yeah, I feel they've done a pretty decent job there. And then that does reveal the top section where we can put some radiators in. So let's take a look at that next. So now looking at this section whilst crushing my hand, we've got, obviously you can put a 360mm radiator in there, AIOs, that's going to fit in there easy. You can put 3 140mm fans, which is actually a really unusual thing. I don't recall recent times actually seeing a case which fitted 3 140mm fans in the top. 3 120s was generally a push, but 3 140s is kind of insane. Sadly, you can't put a 420 radiator in the top. That would have been icing on the cake, but there just isn't quite enough room to do that. A couple more inches in length and you would have been able to do that. So 360s on the top, 280s, 240s, etc, etc, and obviously you've got a lot of room to move them. Something else which they've done, which I kind of like, is the fact they've left it as open as kind of possible, really. So on this side, you've got your mounting area to bring it this way. You've only got these very thin bars going across to actually link everything up. On this side, you've got a little bit more because you've got the 120mm brackets or the 140s. So yeah, there is going to be a little bit blocking the radiators and fans there, but they have kept it to an absolute minimum, which I do appreciate. So it's going to allow your airflow through the radiator. Worst thing you have with a radiator is because you've already got fans trying to push through metal anyway, and all those fins, the last thing you want is additional restrictions on the top. For that reason, actually, I would suggest if you are doing a top mounted rad, I would probably remove the filter from the top and just leave it with the panel on its own. You don't need that extra air filtration because the air is coming out. If you've got it as an intake, then obviously leave the filter in because it's going to filter the fresh air coming in. But yeah, I feel they've done a pretty decent job here. So now we can take a look at the back section. So the back section is kind of almost the same as the front. So got a similar sort of design language. There is a ridge there which kind of matches up with the glass on the other side. You've also got another bit of ventilation on there. So there's 3 thumb screws on the side of here. I don't know why they've done 3. I guess it's just for a strengthening thing because it is quite a largish panel. And unslot that, and on the back you can see yet again another magnetic filter in place there. So again, wherever it's going to be trying to suck in air, there is going to be a little bit of filtration. That's good. And the panel itself is pretty solid. There's ridges in it to keep it a bit more solid. It is a big panel, so there is going to be a little bit of flex in it, but certainly it does feel quite weighty. So now we can take a look at the business side of things, and this is actually, they've done, again, hats off to them, they've actually come up trumps here, they really have. So let's start at the back. So we've got the cabling coming through from the fan at the back. Again, got this huge pass through here. I can probably almost get my entire hand through there. So when it comes to putting your EPS power cables in there, or maybe pulling cables from your radiators, AIOs, RGB, all that kind of stuff, that's going to be an absolute piece of cake. Maybe it's too big. if there is such a thing, but certainly that's going to be very easy to manage. You've got a massive cutout here, so if you're using AM4, AM5 or Intel sockets, which tend to be a bit more square, you've got good access there, so nothing's going to be covered up. That's excellent. You've also got the second drive mounting section here, so this can take two 2.5 inch drives or one single 3.5 inch drive, and gains on thumb screws, so you can take it out, put your drive on, put it back in, etc. And the same here, that's the third one. You've also got two drive bays at the bottom on sleds, so you can, again, you can put a 2.5 inch drive on there or a 3.5 inch drive, whichever you choose. So in total, you're looking at 8 SSDs or 2.5 inch drives or 5 3.5 inch drives. So in terms of content creators, if you are a content creator and you've got a lot of stuff on your big Western Digital drives or your big kind of Iron Wolf drives and you've got a lot of storage, imagine having 5 drives. You could basically make this into a NAS quite easily. That is something which I guess some people probably wouldn't consider, but this potentially could be a very easy NAS box. Moving on, so cabling has all been done. I haven't done any of this. I've put a little bit around there. Other than that, that is basically how it comes out of the factory. So tons of clips to hold all the cables in place, and you've got these nice cable tied sections. These are double purpose ones, so you can use both sides of the cable tie, so to speak. So you've got your IO coming down through here, but obviously when you've got your power supply in there, you can unwrap that. These are still going to be held in place, but you can put your power supply or your 24-pin power cable in there, cable tie it around, and just have it all really nice and neat. And again, for things like your GPU power, all that kind of stuff. There's a few punch outs for cable ties, not a huge amount, to be honest with you. Most of them tend to be down here, so 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a couple around the top there, not a great deal, but they have put these little clips in, which you might be able to just about see there. So that is for cable management. You can tuck those in there. Again, rubber grommets for pass-throughs. Yeah, it's a pretty decent setup. They've even put like a little strengthening bar in here as well to hold things in place, which is kind of cool. I'm not sure why it needs that, but it's there anyway, regardless. What else have we got? So the drive cage itself is removable. So if you don't want a drive cage, you're not going to use it, and you want more room down here for cable management, or maybe you're just one of those lunatics who wants to put fans everywhere, you can actually remove that, and it will fit a 120 or 140mm fan on there. If you want to, you could do, because it's all meshed at the bottom as well, so there's going to be filtration. Lots of room for power supplies up to 220mm, like we said before. When it comes to the front I/O, you've got your usual sort of stuff. So you've got your HD audio, you have got a USB Type-C, which is not the usual stuff. It's nice to see though, although you kind of would expect it on a case of this kind of level of quality. You've also got a USB 3.0, nicely blacked out as well. That's pretty cool. And you've got your traditional front panel I/O connections there. So reset switch, hard drive LED, power LED, and your power switch. All nicely blacked out, apart from a little bit of ketchup and mustard on the HD audio, but yeah, it's not the end of the world. And it's all been nicely put into kind of sensible places. So HD audio is going to go up through there very easily. They have thought this through pretty well, I feel, in my opinion. Looking at the bottom again, exceptionally well thought through. You can't fault it at all, really. You've got this full length mesh filter on there, which is always nice to see. So something which they've thought through again. They're probably thinking where people are going to be putting this on their desk. So if it's going to be on your desk next to you, you don't want to be taking the power supply and all that kind of stuff out the way. All you want to do is just remove the filter from the front, which you can do on a little handle there, slide the whole thing all the way out, give it a clean, and then put it back in. So that is basically the best type of front access filter that I've seen in a long time. There are 1 or 2 other cases which do it, but not many. And I feel they've done a particularly good job, although I haven't from this particular angle. And there we go, that is locked back in place. Obviously, on the bottom you've got some rubber feet as well to kind of isolate noise, vibrations, etc. Rises up about 1 inch on there, so there is going to be a little bit of airflow on the bottom, not a huge amount. Again, if you remove this, there's 4 screws there to remove that drive cage. But yeah, overall I think they've thought pretty much everything out very, very nicely. Okay, so we've got things fired back up again, and as you can see, I've actually changed the display on there. So currently we've got a little bit of an Italian theme going on there with green, white and red. I think that's Italy. I'm not very cultured. Anyway, so we've got the time and the clock going on down there. The fans are actually on at the moment, so they're currently running through a separate controller. So a Noctua controller, which I use for testing, and that is on the lowest speed setting. If we turn them right up, they're going to get loud, so we'll do that anyway. Not too bad. They register, from what Thermaltake have said, around about 30 dBA. So, yeah, not awful. Realistically, no one with the right mind is going to run them at that speed anyway. So, put them on to about half. So that's going to be somewhere in the region of about 1,000 RPM. And yeah, basically they're absolutely silent, but they're moving a ton of air. They really are. So this is going to keep nice and cool. And we can turn the lighting on now. This remote doesn't come with it. This is a separate controller which I'm using just for demonstration purposes. So turn it on and there we go. We've got our addressable RGB lighting. We've got everything running and we don't have any crazy kind of weird wiring. It's literally just a 3-pin 5-volt addressable RGB and a 4-pin PWM. It could not be simpler. It really couldn't. And if we take this off, you can have a close look at the fans. And they are literally super silent. Now they do come through on camera as being very bright, and in real life they don't actually look as bright as that. So maybe if I turn the brightness down on them a little bit, and maybe they'll look a little bit more presentable. But yeah, they're very nice, very vivid. The colour transitions are actually very smooth as well, which is always a nice thing to see. Best of all, they're silent, or as near to silent as you can get, with them being roughly, like I said, about half speed, and on the very lowest setting. Yeah, it's impossible to tell they're actually on, but yet they're still moving a reasonable amount of air, enough to kind of keep a system under control in its kind of idle or low usage states. But of course, they can ramp up to 1500 RPM under duress if you're doing some video editing, some rendering, that sort of stuff. Yeah, I think they look very good. We'll cycle through some of the color options there. You see, it's actually quite vivid. Looks pretty good. And if we go for bright white, they are quite bright. I'm not sure why. It's looking brighter on camera than it is actually in real life. But they are, yeah, they're pretty good. And you can tame them down a little bit if you want to. You can reduce, obviously, the brightness in your software of choice. But yeah, overall, I think it's a very decent case. I like it a lot. I am super stoked. Really, really excited to build on it. I really can't wait to get all my stuff in here. When I first got the case, I was thinking that I was going to put in the SWA fans, the SWA Fan 12, SWA Fan 13. We've actually got a Thermaltake AIO, which is actually just slightly out of shot in the background there, which you can see with the tough fans on. But I was thinking of taking the tough fans off, putting the SWA Fan 12s on there, and doing the SWA Fan 14s on here, and just seeing how that all goes. But maybe maybe we won't. That is going to be the beauty of this, because if you're watching this video now, if you want to find out more about this case, like I said at the very beginning, this is going to be effectively my daily driver. It's going to be sat behind me. You're going to see it in pretty much every video going forward from the release date on. And yeah, if you've got any comments or questions about it, anything you want me to try out, any dimensions, sizes, shapes. I'm not sure if I mentioned already, CPU cooler height up to 185mm, which is absolutely mind-blowing. That is a huge amount of room, but then it is a slightly wider chassis, so you can put in some really big air coolers. You could actually put a D15 in there and still have an absolute acre of room there. So that gives you some idea of how much room there is to actually do that. Whether or not it needs that extra room, being that this kind of does more gear itself towards water cooling, because you've got so much radiator support, but then there are going to be some of you out there that just love air cooling. You don't want the complexity of water cooling, in which case this has got you covered. 4 140mm fans, put yourself a huge air cooler in there in the middle, and I think you'll be a very happy person. Anyway, I think that's going to wrap this one up. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you have, smash the like button. If you want to see more content like this on a daily basis, then hit subscribe and the chime notification and to be notified of future video releases. But for now, I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.